Hey guys, it's Danielle with Danielle Gets It Done, and today I am talking about my decision to try for a VBAC for my second pregnancy.
Gonna love you, honey, on and on and on. I'm a morning dove singing out a song.
VBAC stands for vaginal birth after cesarean. My first child ended up in a cesarean, and I would like to try for a normal vaginal birth for my current pregnancy. When women become pregnant after a C-section, they generally have two choices. One, they can choose a scheduled C-section, or sometimes referred to as a repeat C-section, or two, they can go for a VBAC, which is what I'm going for. Now that I'm saying that, I guess there is kind of a third option that I actually think is really cool. It's when you are planning a C-section, but you don't schedule it and you try to let your body go into labor naturally. And when our body goes into labor, we get some helpful hormones. And so that's the reason that some women decide that they want to get those helpful hormones, go into labor, get to the hospital, and have their C-section. I have the utmost respect for women who choose C-sections, repeat C-sections. I hear why they make that decision, and I understand it and completely respect it. What I have great issue with is when doctors use non-evidence-based scare tactics to pressure women into choosing a repeat C-section. That is what I really take issue with, and I think it happens a lot. So I'm going to go through kind of my pros and cons of how I reached my decision. So why I want to avoid a C-section. Number one, a C-section is major surgery. It's no rodeo. They cut through your uterus, they cut through your abdominals. It is major surgery, and the recovery time is much longer than a vaginal birth. Some women bounce back and they're fine. I personally had a really hard recovery with my son, and any surgery obviously comes with major risks and complications. My second reason is that a mom and her baby are often separated right after a C-section, and I just think this is so unnatural for both the mom and the baby. You know, we've been together for 9 months. Birth is traumatic for a baby, whether or not it's vaginally or through surgery. Literally their whole world is rocked, and all they really know is the smell and voice of their mother. And for it to go through that traumatic experience and then be separated from its mother is very stressful, and I do not think it's right. When you get a C-section, you often get your cord clamped right away, and delayed clamping is really beneficial, and that's usually not done. And so just for the bonding of mom and baby, I think is a good reason to try to avoid a C-section for myself. Now, things are changing, and you can request what's called a family-centered C-section, and that's definitely going to be in my birth plan. I'm definitely going to prepare for the event that I have a C-section. That is when the curtain is lowered a little bit more. You get skin to skin with the baby right away. The cord clamping is delayed, and mom and baby are never separated. So I really hope that hospitals move more and more toward these family-based cesareans. Number 3, C-section moms are at higher risk of postpartum depression. I was one of those. I'll never know if it was because of my C-section, but it's thought that they are at higher risk because when you give birth vaginally and naturally, you get the hormone oxytocin in large doses, and that's really beneficial for the bonding of mom and baby. Again, I'll never know if it was the fault of my C-section, but I did have a hard time bonding with my baby. I think it took a good month before I really felt completely bonded with him, and it's something that I've felt really guilty about. Number 4, when the baby goes through the birth canal, they receive a lot of bacteria that is super beneficial for them, and vaginally born babies are at lower risk for certain immune disorders. Now, as I was preparing for this video, A new breakthrough study came out. Perhaps you heard of it. I will link it below. I'll also link where I got some of my resources. And for moms who are choosing a C-section, what they are doing is, it sounds disgusting, but I mean really, it's birth. They'll kind of swap the mom's vagina afterwards and smear the baby with that bacteria after it is born through surgery. And again, that sounds really weird, but most of us who are born naturally through the vagina are going through the vagina and getting that bacteria. And I'm really excited about that. It just seems so simple and a really good way to kind of gain that benefit even though you're not having a vaginal birth. And I'm definitely going to talk up to my doctor about that next time I see him. Number 5 is scar tissue. Scar tissue is no joke, and it can cause serious complications, and usually years after a surgery. And especially the more surgeries you have in the same spot, repeat C-sections, moms who are having 4 and 5 children via C-section, that scar tissue just builds up, and it can become, I don't want to sound dramatic, but it really is, it causes death in some situations. Now for me even, it's been 6 years, but though rare, I did get endometriosis right on my scar tissue as a result from my C-section, and it is really, really painful. And so I'm one of those people who've had complications from my surgery. Okay, so then now I have 2 cons of a VBAC, why I would maybe choose a repeat C-section. And the first is the big scary thing that I think sways most women to choosing a repeat surgery, and that is uterine rupture. So uterine rupture can really happen to any mom in labor, whether or not she's had a C-section before. And it is, as it sounds, when your uterus ruptures. And it can become very serious if it does happen. You need a C-section right away, and if you don't have access to that C-section, it can become fatal to the baby. So it is serious. But the facts are, a C-section mom, a mom who's had a C-section, has about a 1% chance of her uterus erupting. And because I've only had 1 C-section and my scar is horizontal instead of vertical, my chances are about half of 1%, or 0.45%, I think is what it is officially. Again, it's really serious, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but of that small fraction, that 0.5% to 1% of moms whose uterus erupts, only a fraction of that is when the whole uterus erupts completely, and that's when it becomes really serious. It becomes really serious. Again, I think it's really scary and definitely something everyone should consider, but as I look at the facts and the numbers and the evidence-based things in front of me, I'm really comfortable taking that risk. This second reason is more powerful for me. I am going to be very disappointed if I go in for a VBAC and have a really long, hard labor, and after all that, I end up with a C-section anyways. I will be annoyed. I will be very, very disappointed. My first labor was 49 hours. It started at night, so my husband and I were up for about 72 hours by the time my son was born. I was delirious. I had a long labor, major surgery. I was just delirious. And if that happens again, I will be devastated. And there is something really tempting about scheduling a 7 a.m. C-section on a Monday, sleeping in, showering, showing up to the hospital, and meeting your baby that way. For me, that is the big thing that I have been considering. So with all that said, for me and my situation, again, it's different for every woman, and I have the utmost respect for those who seriously think about it and choose a C-section. That last reason I gave is definitely the one that would sway me over to that side. But for me and my situation and all the pros and cons, I feel confident in trying for a VBAC, and I feel really blessed to be supported by my doctor and my family. If you've had a C-section or want to learn more about VBACing or even repeat C-section, iCan is such a great resource. There are local chapters everywhere and they can give you evidence-based facts, and there's a support group in most states where you can go and meet with other women, and they were so helpful with my healing for my first birth. So I will leave that below, as well as some links with some other relevant information. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you have a wonderful day, and whatever your plans are, I hope you get them done. Bye, guys.
Ooh.